How's that 2023 diet working out? Not so good? Well, you probably lasted longer than most people did. A couple of days, yeah, hey, most people eat clean on the first day, but then the second day gets tough, and yeah, you got a food addiction or something like that. So, how do you actually overcome that patterned eating that you've acquired over the years? All of the good stuff, all of the stuff that tastes good. I know it's not good for you or anything like that, but you really like it. So, how do you overcome that? Well, you stop eating it once and for all, stop buying it and stop going out and you cook for yourself. How about that? But no. I do sympathize with people in that situation. I understand overeating is a big problem and people just continue to get fatter and fatter all the time. Lord have mercy. 70% of people in the United States are overweight and 40% of them are clinically obese. The average woman walking around, peek this for a second, 5'3" to 5'5", weighing 170 pounds. If you're an African American woman, if you are a black woman, you are 180 pounds. Yo, me. 6.5 feet tall, 210, 215. If I was a foot and a half shorter, I would be your average Walmart golem rolling around the halls of your local grocery store. I can't believe that. Yo, man, it's wild how far we've got, mostly because everything's processed and you've been lied to by the people that are telling you about what you should be eating, what's good for you. Because what you should be eating and what's good for you was people whose checks cashed. Well, tasty and flavorful, unhealthy processed foods can trap us into experiencing cravings that mirror those of addiction. Yeah, no. Normally you'd want to follow that up with something. In July of 2022, the University of Michigan National Poll on Healthy Aging asked a national sample of adults aged 50 to 80 about symptoms of addiction to highly processed food and looked at how those symptoms related to their physical and mental health. 1 in 8 older Americans may have food addiction. Okay. Most common symptoms: intense cravings, inability to reduce consumption, withdrawal symptoms. Interesting. Okay, so 44% of people said at least having one of those symptoms. Claim that highly processed foods like sweetened beverages, chips, and fast food, can be addictive to some people, just like cigarettes and alcohol. I'd pinpoint that more to chemical additives and sugar, but okay, yeah, no. It's still, I'm not advocating for processed food. I just want to get to the bottom of this. About 12% of respondents reported that their eating behavior caused them distress at least 2 to 3 times a week. Some said that their intake of highly processed food caused significant problems in their life, like I haven't seen my feet in years. Participants who rated their mental health as fair or poor at least 3 times more likely to meet food addiction criteria compared to those who reported excellent, very good, or good mental health. Well, if you're fat, you shouldn't be feeling good about yourself because being fat is a choice and being fat is totally unacceptable. Neuropsychologist Sanam Hafiz, all right, who holds a doctorate in psychology and a director of Comprehend the Mind and a professor at Columbia University. He's a fairly accredited chap. He said that there are 3 factors involved in food addiction: stress and emotional damage. Happiness, sadness, despair, stress, or loneliness often leads to what we call emotional eating. Emily Fever, a registered dietitian at Long Island Jewish Forest Hospital. Oi, somebody comes down, they they consume an entire schwarze and the matzo balls, and they have entire bagel spread. All right, I'll stop before I get canceled on YouTube. Rumble doesn't care. Rumble's wild. Part of Northwell Health in New York. Well, of course, you said Jew. I immediately thought of New York. People who become addicted to food may eat to enhance positive emotion and reduce negative emotions. Oh, why don't you just deal with those, you lazy bastards? Research shows a significant association between food addiction and negative emotional states like depression and anxiety. Well, boys got some controversial, real opinions about depression and anxiety. You don't eat because you're depressed because you eat. So why don't you cut out the common denominator there? Stop eating bad foods. Exercise, internalize your depression and use it as a motivator. How about that? When you're feeling down or low energy, you may gravitate towards something sweet. Or if you're feeling good and you want to celebrate, you gravitate towards something sweet. It's almost like that sweet thing is probably the problem more so than anything else. High stress situations or a time of needed comfort may have us turning to carbs. Rather than abstaining entirely from foods we gravitate towards, favor advised, we should instead work on finding a less unhealthy alternative. Bruh. I'm a registered dietitian. I think that everything is good in moderation. Oh, you had to go to school to figure that out, huh? Brain chemistry. Yes, indeed. Consuming foods high in carbohydrates, fat, sugar, salt, and artificial sweeteners can cause an addictive-like process for some individuals, pointed out Hafiz. This activates the reward processing regions in the brain, which releases serotonin and dopamine. Yeah, see, now we're actually getting to some physical stuff. Some tangible solutions here. Okay, fat, sugar, salt, that amalgamation of all three kind of elicits, a chemical reaction in the brain. And now you can actually take steps in order to figure out, how can we figure this stuff out? How can we ease people off this stuff? An overstimulation of the dopamine reward circuit can have a high, similar to what's experienced from drugs or alcohol. Great. And genetics. Oh my God, it's my parents' fault that I'm fat. Come on. Another factor that supports the development of food addiction is genetics. Research has shown that some people have genes putting them in higher than average risk of developing any type of addiction, including food addictions. That's a bit of a stretch to say top three. I would say brain chemistry and the fact that, the neurons want to link up whenever you have something that tastes good. It's a reward. Well, stop with those systems. How about that? A new study from the Imperial College's School of Public Health finds that highly processed foods are linked with increased cancer risk. Researchers classified these foods as those that include carbonated drinks, cereal, prepackaged meals, and mass-produced and packaged bread. They emphasized that these foods are not typical ingredients used in household cooking, but instead consist of derived ingredients like high fructose corn syrup or modified starch. Fair enough, man. Now we're getting into the nuts and bolts. After studying 200,000 middle-aged participants over 10 years, researchers found that people who eat highly processed foods were at a significantly higher risk of potentially deadly cancers, among them ovarian and brain cancer. Well, I'd imagine, some of the people tested, and I don't think Ted tested positive for ovarian cancer, but it's 2023 after all, and you know how cultural landscape we've seceded to those weirdos, so who knows? Not likely to develop in people who ate ultra-processed foods. However, ovarian and breast cancers were more likely to be fatal for this population. Well, yeah, because normally half of your sample size wouldn't have to worry about breast cancer, but once you get to a certain size, you start to develop certain titties, so, it makes sense. Our bodies may not react the same way to ultra-processed ingredients and additives as they do to fresh and nutritious, minimally processed foods. Yeah, exactly. High consumption of highly processed foods is also significantly associated with an increased risk of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. You don't say. Empty calories that don't really fill you up, but just still count on your metabolic scoreboard. Well, imagine that. You might think that it's a lot of food to have, a dozen donuts, but when your body doesn't register outside of just the amount of space, you can still be malnourished, but still be eating a plethora of foods. So, overcoming food addiction. How do you do it in 3 easy steps? Limit trigger food. Wow, imagine that. In moderation. Hafiz recommends eliminating alcohol and caffeinated beverages from your diet to help reduce poor eating choices. Yeah, okay. As these substances typically can trigger cravings. Yeah, because most people don't drink black coffee. They say, I like strong coffee, but in reality, they like their, double doubles or triple triples. Let's just stop it already. So, while there isn't anything necessarily wrong with caffeine, it's a good stimulant, a natural stimulant. But the way that most people consume it, it's through, sugary soft drinks. Let's keep it a buck. And alcohol, just the most empty of calories. Every gram of alcohol or milliliter of alcohol, however you want to shake it down, 7 calories. Yeah, fat's 9, carbs and protein are 4. So yeah. Research from Cornell University confirmed that caffeine can make foods taste less sweet and encourage greater sugar consumption. Oh, interesting. Another study suggests alcohol could stimulate nerve cells in the brain that increase appetite. Well, and for the reasons that I said about how much, or how many empty calories you get for consuming alcohol, and there's legitimately no upside to drinking. I'll just say it. Simply ditching caffeinated or alcoholic beverages and drink water, sparkling water instead could help keep cravings at bay. Train your body and your mind to avoid junk food. Yeah, exactly. Introducing healthier options into your diet will also help. Over time, your body will get used to avoiding junk food. It normally takes 3 weeks in order to develop a habit, so start today. And then guess what? That time frame gets shorter and shorter, and then you don't even want it going forward. This is because for most people who often eat junk food, their body finishes digesting the food. It will start to mobilize waste and repair the damage. Interesting. Okay, makes them feel heavy. This process makes you feel fatigued and gives you headaches and anxieties. Yeah, because it's kind of like eating poison. Your body's got to process it, and it's got to use a bunch of resources so that you don't end up dying or becoming septic. But if you eat nutritious foods, you feel nothing. You also have no desire to eat again until glycogen stores are nearly exhausted. Exactly, you aren't on this constant sugar loop. And number 3, cognitive reappraisal. Cognitive reappraisal is usually used to reduce negative emotions, but researchers found that it can be quite effective for food addiction. That's not a word. When seeing junk food, you can think of these negative consequences of eating it. The food may cause cancer or make you fat, or you might think of something that might be wrong with the food, like someone sneezed on it, or cook used dirty hands to package it, or that you can no longer fit into your into your pants, fatty. I don't know, I got an accent for that. I've been talking a lot today. Hafiz said being mindful of what you eat is critical. Seeing how many calories are in food items you crave and understanding how much exercise it takes to eliminate these calories can help overcome food addiction. Just as we have become more in tune with the mental health in general, have we really though? I'd push back on that, but that's another topic for another time. Physicians need to pay more attention to patients whose weight or lab results indicate that they may be eating in a manner consistent with food addiction. Yeah, if you give them the old, hey, how's it going? Then they got to reach around their gut in order to shake your hand. That could be a bit of a problem. Many people can't afford a nutritionist. Yeah, but you can stop eating out of bags and boxes. How about that? Pretty straightforward, huh? In general, you know that sitting down with broccoli as opposed to a sleeve of Oreos is probably a better choice for you. So yeah, no, you don't need to afford a nutritionist who's just somebody who's read a couple of books and then just slaps that up on their wall. You don't need to talk to a registered dietitian. Well, you can if you want to. I'm just saying that there are easy breakdowns for figuring out what your macros need to be, how much protein you need to intake, how many carbohydrates, and even though I'd say not very many, but how much fat you need to be taken. You can break that down all real easily, but you know what's missing in all of these equations? The desire to do as much and then the willpower to impose your choices. Because you chose to stuff your mouth full with all of those potato chips. You chose to sit down with that sugary treat. You know what else you can do? You can choose to be better. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.